Hello, good morning, and welcome to another exciting time where we talk about business. It is Business 360, and my name is Blyden Ukem. In Business 360 today, we'll look at some of the biggest stories in the world of business. We'll also x-ray the fine details in the stock markets, the commodity markets, and also look at some economic standings, especially in Africa. Global companies with a presence in Israel suspended operations or asked employees to work from home as the country wages war on Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Several Asian, European, and U.S. airlines have suspended direct flights to Tel Aviv. Chevron, the second largest oil and gas producer in the U.S., has been ordered by Israel's Ministry of Energy to shut down the Tama natural gas field of the country's northern coast. Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan Chase have asked employees at its office in Tel Aviv to work from home. The impact of the crisis in the Middle East. The EU has warned Elon Musk that X is being used to spread disinformation after Hamas' attack on Israel. In a post on the site formerly known as Twitter, the blog's industry chief said violent and terrorist content had been taken down despite warnings, as is required by EU law. Mr. Musk said his company had taken action, including removing newly created Hamas-affiliated accounts. He asked the EU to list the alleged violations. Still on the European scene. North Atlantic Treaty Organization NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg cautioned that any deliberate damage to the alliance's critical infrastructure would warrant a response after an undersea gas pipeline was ruptured in a suspected act of sabotage in Finland. Stoltenberg said ahead of a meeting of NATO defense ministers in Brussels. Let's find out more.
So, address the incident in the Baltic Sea with the damage caused to critical undersea infrastructure. I spoke with President Sauli Niinisto and Prime Minister Kaja Kallas yesterday, and we are in close contact. The important thing now is to establish what happened and how this could happen. If it is proven to be a deliberate attack on NATO critical infrastructure, then this will be, of course, serious, but it will also be met by a united and determined response.
Well, still talking about businesses around the world. A U.S. Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, said she's backs harnessing windfall proceeds from Russian sovereign assets immobilized, in particular, clearinghouses, and using the funds to support Ukraine, giving her strongest backing yet for a European Union plan to impose a windfall tax on profits generated by foreign Russian sovereign assets. Yellen spoke at a press conference in Marrakesh, Morocco, at the start of annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Let's find out more from Yellen.
I want to be clear that we cannot allow our support to Ukraine to be interrupted. Our allies and the Ukrainian people can rest assured that the Biden administration, with the support of a bipartisan majority of the U.S. Congress and the American people, will work so that Ukraine receives the assistance it needs to win this war. We also continue to work to mitigate the other impacts of the war, including on food security, especially since Russia's cruel withdrawal from the Black Sea Grain Initiative. And we remain focused on working with the global coalition to deprive Russia of the funding it needs to wage this unjust war. We've put in place a novel price cap policy, which has significantly reduced Russian revenue over the last 10 months while promoting stable energy markets. Global energy prices have been largely unchanged, while Russia has had to either sell oil at a significant discount or spend huge amounts on its alternative ecosystem. I also support harnessing.
Wow. The Reserve Bank of Australia Assistant Governor Chris Kent says the central bank's aggressive monetary policy tightening is working to cool inflation, though lags in transmission mean the full effects of interest rate increases to date are still to be felt. He spoke in Sydney, and let's find out more.
Lags in transmission, the normal lags in transmission of monetary policy mean that some further. So these and other channels of monetary policy are slowing the growth of demand, and that's contributing to a decline in inflation. The lags in transmission, the normal lags in transmission of monetary policy mean that some further effect of the rate increases that we've pursued to date, they're still to be felt through the economy, and that's going to provide further impetus to lower inflation in the period ahead. Meanwhile, the board's...
At the annual meeting of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank, being held this week in Marrakech, Morocco, the two institutions have said they want to focus on African prosperity. The world's most powerful economic policymakers are meeting in Africa for the first time in 50 years to discuss the growth and stability of the global economy at a time of war, inequality, and climate change. A prosperous 21st century is only possible with a prosperous Africa, according to the managing director of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva. Let's find out details from Morocco.
Are offering us a lesson of solidarity. You're also amplifying the voice of the continent. And I can say, in my heart of heart, a prosperous 21st century is only possible with prosperous Africa. Here are the young people. In the north is the capital, with aging populations. If we built a bridge for capital to travel where it would make a difference, Africa would do well, the world would do well.
When we are having the conversation of how much financial resources are available, and we need to choose between food security, debt, climate finance, economic, I would say, investment, we need all of them. And this is our, I would say, pledge together, hopefully, to say that the emerging countries need all this, and the future of the growth of the world needs also the growth of Africa.
South Africa's population surged to 62 million last year, according to census data from the Statistics Agency released on Tuesday. This represents a remarkable 20% increase compared to the last 51.8 million counts conducted in 2011. Of those counted, 81.4% were blacks, 8.2% of mixed race, 7.3% whites, and 2.7% Indian. Now to fellow Southern African country, Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has launched a new gold-backed digital currency to halt re-dollarization, which the administration of President Emerson Mnangagwa worries could destroy the nation's already precarious economy. Zimbabwe launched ZiG digital tokens, backed by gold, the counter re-dollarization threat. ZiG tokens are available for transactions, online payments, and point-of-sale purchases via ZiG Bank accounts. Skepticism abounds as Zimbabwe seeks to stabilize its currency amid mounting economic challenges. In Nigeria, amid the challenges facing Nigeria's power sector, an industrial expert says the country loses an estimated $26.2 billion to a lack of reliable energy supply. The Director General of Global Center for Law, Business and Economy, Dr. George Nwangwa, disclosed this on Tuesday at the Modern Africa Climate Forum 2023 in Abuja. He stated that a loss is an equivalent of 2% of a country's gross domestic product, and it's quite concerning from there. Now, to the National Pension Commission, PENCOM reports. The National Pension Commission, PENCOM, says its asset size stood at 16.76 trillion naira at the end of the third quarter of 2023. The Director General of PENCOM, Aisha Daha Omar, disclosed this recently in an interactive session on the Contributory Pension Scheme CPS with the private sector in Kano. Daha Omar, represented by the Commissioner of Administration, Dr. Omar Aminu, noted that the number of savings accounts under the CPC, the CPS, stood at 10 million level. So we're talking about businesses in the country. The Senate has adopted a motion which was sponsored by Senator Sunday Katong, representing Kaduna South Senatorial District, seeking intervention in farmers' loss of ginger, worth 10 billion naira, due to pathogenic diseases. In the motion, the lawmaker called the urgent need to address the outbreak of a deadly disease affecting ginger production in southern Kaduna, which has caused a devastating effect to farmers. Katong said ginger has been grown in the southern part of Kaduna State since about 1927, and it has steadily increased in its importance as a valuable commodity over the intervening years, but never witnessed destruction of this magnitude due to diseases. And now to oil prices in Nigeria. Oil marketers have countered the position of the federal government as they insisted that the current pump price of premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, should not be less than 800 naira per litre if there was no subsidy on the commodity. Petrol currently sells at between 580 naira per litre and 617 naira per litre, depending on the area of purchase, as the federal government, through its Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, had denied reintroducing PMS subsidy. Meanwhile, on Monday, the Group Chief Executive Officer, NNPCL, Malakiari, denied the reintroduction of petrol subsidy and claimed that the pockets of queues by motorists observed in petrol stations across the country stem from hiccups in products distribution from the south to the north, and not a lack of supply. We'll go on a short break. When we're back, we'll be looking at the global markets, from the commodity market to the stock market, as well as the foreign exchange market. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. It is Business 360, and my name is Blyden. Okay. And now to the markets, beginning with the commodities, the energy market in particular. Oil steadies as Middle East supply fears ease. WTI crude futures steadied around $86 per barrel today, as fears of possible supply disruption in the Middle East due to the Israel-Hamas war started to fade. Saudi Arabia also reiterated its support for efforts by OPEC Plus to balance oil markets and measures that could boost our global growth. Moreover, Iran denied involvement in Hamas aggression towards Israel, and the White House said it has no evidence that a country planned or directed the assault. Still, the U.S. oil benchmark remained up about 4% for the week as the Middle East conflict increased the war risk premium to the market. Well, quickly let's move to the market and see what the prices would be this morning, beginning with the energy market and afterwards the metal, industrial and agricultural markets. The energy market first. The energy market this morning have given some direction, some being slightly negative while others are upward. But the volatility level of the market is quite low. Crude oil, which is the U.S. crude, the West Texas Intermediate crude, current price is $85 90 per barrel, downward by 0.067 points, a negative 0.08% decline. For Brent, the price of Brent, which is Nigeria's price benchmark, is $87 per barrel, upward by 0.186 points, a 0.21% appreciation. Natural gas is slightly upward this morning by 1.8% appreciation, and gasoline, heating oil, a little here, a little there, as well as coal price. Our coal price is 0.55 points increased this morning, a 0.39% appreciation, and $141 90 per ton for coal. Let's look at further markets, the industrial markets, what the prices of industrial commodities are this morning. The price of bitumen is currently at 4,010 Chinese yuan per ton, 125 points upward, a 3.22% appreciation. The cobalt price is without significant difference in the market, still at $33,420 per ton. Our lead price is downward by 35.5 points. $2,124 per ton is the price of lead. Aluminium increasing by 14 points. A tin price downward by 426 points, as well as zinc gaining 2 points this morning. The price of metal commodities, the price of gold, silver, and the rest in the metal commodity market. Gold prices upward by 8.11 points this morning. Market is moving quite fast, gaining 8.16 points this morning. A 0.44% appreciation, $1,868 per ounce is the price of gold. For silver, not much significant difference, gaining 0.263 points at $22 per ounce is the price of silver. A copper price gaining slightly, steel price downward by 9 points, iron ore dropping by 2 points, and lithium, no significant difference in the morning market. And now to the price of the agricultural commodities. What the price of soybeans is this morning. Our soybeans price is dropping by 3.25 points this morning, $1,268 per bushel. For wheat, it's $555 per bushel, dropping 2.75 points this morning. Lumber are gaining 11.5 points, and the outstanding features also for coffee. It's upward 0.4 points this morning, $147 per pound for coffee. And we're looking at the price of cotton also, $85 per pound. And cocoa gaining 39 points, $3,475 per pound. And the price of rice a little here, a little there. And now to the FX market, looking at the foreign exchange market this morning. From an African point of view, let's talk about the South African rand. The South African rand traded around 19.1 per US dollar, strengthening from a 4-month low of $19.5 hit on October 5th, mainly due to a weakening dollar following dovish comment from the Federal Reserve officials. On the domestic front, mounting concerns about the deteriorating inflation and its outlook are increasing the chances of an additional interest rate hike this year in South Africa. South African Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Gwanyago recently said the risks of the inflation outlook include oil and food prices, as well as a depreciating currency, which has weakened more than 10% against the dollar so far this year. Still talking about emphases in South Africa, he emphasized that South Africa's already bleak economic prospects are further dimmed by the worsening state of the country's fiscal situation. Before we get to look at the market, let's have FX update this morning as the Swedish krona depreciates by 0.51%. The gains this morning in the currency market has been led by the Russian ruble by 0.38%, but the top currency losers are Swedish krona, a negative 0.51%, a New Zealand dollar, negative 0.4%, and Australian dollar, a negative 0.25%. Quickly, let's move to the market then and see what the prices this morning are regarding the currency pairs, beginning with the euro against the US dollar, and afterwards we'll look at the state of the naira. The euro against the US dollar this morning. A current standing for it, it's 1.06 points, gaining slightly but not a significant change in the market. A 0.06% appreciation. For the pound against the US dollar, it's 1.22 point mark. A slight decline this morning, a 0.02% decline. For the Aussie against the US dollar, similar story, but standing at 0.642 points mark. A slight decline of 0.16% drop. Let's look at the state of the naira then, how naira is performing against the majors. The US dollar against the naira, on a yearly basis, the US dollar has gained 75.7% over the naira, but 763 naira equals 1 US dollar at the open of today's market. At the closure of previous market, the euro against the naira, last week it is, the euro against the naira, current price is 813 naira equaling 1 euro, a drop of 3.1 points in favor of the naira against the euro. But a pound to the naira, current price is 926 naira to 1 pound, a drop of 17.787 points, and quite bad for the pound. against the naira, a negative 1.88% decline. Let's move to the apparel market and see what the prices are in the apparel market this morning. The dollar to naira at the buying rate is 1,015 naira to the dollar and selling rate 1,005 naira to the dollar. For the pound to naira, a buying rate is 1,260 naira to the pound and 1,245 naira to the pound. The euro to naira, it's 1,068 naira, equaling 1 euro at the buying rate and selling rate 1,050 in naira. Now to the digital coin, the cryptocurrency market. Well, crypto assets have different outlook, a little up, a little down, but Bitcoin is hugely downward by 309 points this morning. 27,101 US dollar equals 1 Bitcoin, a negative position of 1.09% decline. Ether, it's at 1,563 US dollar, upward by 3.9 points, a 0.25% appreciation. Binance, slightly downward. Cardano, slightly downward. Solana, gaining slightly this morning by 0.35%, and Ripple's dropping a whopping negative 2.2%. Now let's talk about the global stock market this morning, beginning with the Asian stock market, as Asian stocks gain on dovish Fed view. Asian equity market rose today, tracking Wall Street's higher as dovish messaging from Fed officials boosted bets that a central bank is done hiking rates. A weaker dollar and treasury yield also aided sentiments. A South Korean shares led the change on the chart as Samsung jumped 4% on a stronger than expected third quarter profit forecast. The stocks in Australia, Japan, Hong Kong, and mainland China also gained. Quickly, let's move to the Asian stock market and see what the change has been based on different countries and the stock market. Asian stock market this morning begins with JP225 Japanese stock gaining 190 points this morning, basis point this morning, and the all-share index level 31,937, a gain of 0.6%. In China, a Shanghai stock is gaining 4 points, while the CSI 300 gains 10 points, and Shanghai 50 also gains 8 points this morning. Similarly, the CH50 also has gained 44.93 points this morning, while Sensex gaining 353 basis points this morning. Let's look at the African stock market standing this morning and what the price level is. Beginning with the Nigerian stock market, the Nigerian stock market is dropping early hours of the morning, dropping 117 basis points. The all-share index level is at 66,985 points, a downward movement of 0.17%. In South Africa, looking at the stock market there, the SA40 is dropping by 240 points. SA Oil also dropping 226 points. Egyptian stock, EGX30 gaining 142 points, and Nairobi all-share, no significant difference in the market. And quickly, let's look at the Nigerian stock market today and what the prices would be in the market this morning. Mostly no significant difference in the morning market, but the outlook is that of a closure of yesterday's market. Dangote Cement having a price level of 310 naira 10 kobo, and Bois Cement 103 naira 40 kobo. Saplat Energy 1,837 naira, Stanbic IBTC 80 naira in the market, but a significant change has been minimal in the market this morning. Here we draw the curtain on today's edition of Business 360. Thank you for being a part of it. My name is Blyden Okem.